ciel bleu volent en silence les cœurs des gens amoureux. Hey everyone, so for today's video, I'm going to be doing a Kosas brand overview. I feel like Kosas does a lot of really unique formulas and I really enjoy a lot of their products, so I wanted to walk you through the brand, the products that I've tried, the ones that I really enjoy, and then some of the ones that I would maybe skip. I actually put up a poll in my community tab to see if you all wanted to see this video or a brand overview of Undone Beauty. That video is still coming, but if you were one of the people that wanted to see this video, definitely make sure to give this video a thumbs up. So let's first start off with, I think the first product that I tried from Kosas, it was the Tinted Face Oil, and I think that this is one of the most interesting formulas that Kosas has come out with, and it's one that I've used for a while now. Texture is really interesting. It's a tinted face oil, but in general, it doesn't necessarily have a lot of richness or a lot of heaviness to it the way that some more emollient face oils have. It's a little bit more slippery, almost in like a silicone way, not necessarily a face oil way. To me, the texture is way closer to more of a silicone-based skin tint rather than just a straight facial oil. But I can see some similarities between a formula like this and say like a dry face oil. Dry face oils kind of sink down into the skin, and this product also does that when it's applied. So when I apply this, I like to use my fingers. You can certainly use a brush or a sponge as well, but for a texture like this, I think that it really meshes into the skin well when you rub it between your fingers and apply it. If you did want to go with a brush, I would go with a very dense brush, and if you did want to use a sponge, just know that it's probably going to absorb quite a lot of the product just because this is so thin. The way it applies actually reminds me quite a bit of the MAC Face and Body, just because I find that that formula goes onto the skin really well with fingers, but this is much thinner than the MAC Face and Body. Honestly, I really like the way that it goes onto my skin. I find that there's almost a touch of a blurring quality. This does have silica in it, so that will give you a little bit of an airbrushed look. And this also kind of settles down into the skin and kind of sinks in. And that's what I really like my foundations to do. I like them to just mesh a little bit into the skin so that everything looks really seamless. I would say here are kind of my critiques with this product though. Though I think that the formula is really interesting and on its own, I actually think it looks really beautiful. I do think that this is a little bit of a finicky product. One, it's very liquidy. So if you do apply it with fingers the way that I do, if you put a little bit in your hand, it's gonna get all over you. Two, because this is a very slippy formula, I do find that certain products don't get along well with it. There are certain sunscreens and lotions that I find don't get along well with this, and there are certain products that I apply on top that also don't. I've experimented with my skincare and I've found products that work really well with this. If you just want a skin tint and you're not worried about adding any other products on top of it, I think that this is a good option. But I do have a lot of other formulas that I think are less finicky. So personally, I'm not going to repurchase. I don't like products that I have to worry about. I really like dependable kind of staple products, especially when it comes to my base. So for me, I can definitely see why people would like this, but I am not going to repurchase. However, a product that I have already repurchased, in fact, I have one coming in the mail right now, it is the Kosas Revealer Concealer. This is the shade 1.5C. I'm completely out of the shade number 1. If there is one product from Kosas that I would highly recommend you try, it's the Kosas Revealer Concealer. And you know, this is not a surprise to a lot of you because I talk about this concealer a lot on my channel, and that's because it's a holy grail product for me. I deal with dryness under my eyes, I deal with hollowness under my eyes. There are so many concealers out there that I just find look heavy under my eyes. They'll conceal the darkness, but then the hollowness under my eyes looks exaggerated. My under eyes still look dry, so it almost makes the problem worse. And I have an entire video on this. I'll leave it linked down below. When I say that I try a lot of concealers and they rarely become a holy grail, I mean like 9 times out of 10, they are not a product that I'm going to repurchase. And this is one that I absolutely adore. If you're someone that deals with puffiness under your eyes, this also has caffeine, so it'll kind of depuff the area. It also sets down a touch, so it's really nice because it has a beautiful natural finish. It has medium coverage, but it also kind of sets down into the skin, so you don't necessarily need to powder it. Now, it will crease a tiny bit if you don't powder it. Most concealers honestly will, but for me, someone that doesn't like to powder my skin a lot, I really enjoy that about this product. Personally, I think it's perfection, and they also extended the shade range, which I'm very, very happy about. Just creamy, beautiful, natural coverage that's not going to look heavy. I just love it. And I'm also really happy that they extended the shade range as well. So 1.5C is what I'm wearing today. I had the shade 1, that one is pretty much dried out now, but I do like to use the shade 1 for brightening. That's a little bit more of a yellow tone, and 1.5C is slightly more peachy. Next, let's talk about the Cloud Set from Kosas, which is their new baked powder. It is their baked setting and smoothing powder. So I have mine in the lightest shade. It's the shade Airy. This doesn't have a lot of pigment to it. It's not really meant to be kind of like a pigment powder foundation product. It's more so for those of you that want to set down your makeup. This is an extremely thin and lightweight baked formula. Like, the texture is incredibly, incredibly thin. You can see within the pan, I actually got hard pan on this, unfortunately, which can happen with a baked powder formula if you're not careful. I just went in with like my wet sponge and dunked the sponge right in, which is a no-no, so don't do what I did. I just took off a little bit of the top and it was as good as new. I think that this powder is really, really pretty. I'm not a powder person typically. I think a lot of you already know that. I would just rather not apply a powder if I can. Being that I have dry skin, I just find that a lot of formulas, they just look heavy on me, and I feel like sometimes it like screws up my makeup when I put on powder. But what I really like about this powder is that I feel like it doesn't take away your glow necessarily. It will take down shine if you are a little bit shinier than you would like. This is really nice to kind of just smooth out the area, take down a little bit of the shine, but you'll still have that kind of natural glow. What I like to do is I'll take just a fluffy brush like this. This one's from AOA, and I'll just take a little bit onto a brush. And then let's say I just want to take down this area of shine. Just take my brush and very softly go over that area. And you see how there's still a glow there and it doesn't make my skin look too flat, but it's taken down that shine a touch. So if you're someone that really likes to pinpoint powder, that's a technique that Katie Jane Hughes uses a lot as well. And I really like it because I just feel like it's geared more towards someone like me that doesn't like to powder the whole face. So if you're someone that likes to do that, a formula like this is really ideal because you're able to just kind of take it very, very lightly on those areas, and your skin overall still has a nice glow and a luminosity, and this isn't going to dry it out or make it look crackly, and it will set down your makeup so it lasts a little bit longer as well. I actually find that it looks pretty good under my eyes. I have to be honest, like, I would much rather just not put powder on under my eyes, but I have tried it out and I don't think it looks bad. So with summer right around the corner and me wanting a powder to just very lightly set my face and kind of take down shine, especially kind of in my T-zone area, this is a product that I will absolutely be reaching for. It does have a touch of a blur and like an airbrush to it, but it's not so airbrushing that it looks awkward on the skin. Like, there are some really heavy kind of silicone airbrush powders that honestly, I think look heavy and dry on my skin. And I was really happy that this wasn't one of those powders. Something else also I wanted to mention is that if you apply the face oil and within like 5 minutes go in and set it with the powder, you're probably going to get your brush like picking up the face oil a little bit. That was an experience that I had today. They do over time kind of mesh into each other though and look nice. But again, that's another thing about the face oil that I'm not a huge fan of. I've tried this with a bunch of the other foundations that I love and have only had good experiences. And now let's talk about some brow products. I purchased all 3 of the new brow products from Kosas. I have the Brow Pop, which is their pencil, and then I have the Airbrow in the tinted version as well as the clear. Let's first start off with the pencil. So I have mine in the shade Soft Brown. I actually have it in my brows today. And I am someone personally that likes a little bit more of a waxy texture. I like to be able to control the amount of pigment that way. I don't want anything with no pigment, but I don't really like a creamy brow product because it's just more difficult to get those kind of fine hair-like strokes. This texture I think is really nice because it's right in the middle. It's not too waxy and it's not super pigmented and super creamy, which I think is really nice. And the reason I was worried about that is that this actually has conditioning ingredients in it, which I think is really unique. Kosas does that a lot with their products. Like the Revealer Concealer has caffeine. I really like that Kosas incorporates those extra ingredients, especially when you're paying a little bit more money. So this has vitamin B5 as well as castor oil. So the tip of the product is one of those more angled triangle tips, but it's nice because it's much smaller. There are some that are quite thick. So I think that this tip is really nice because it's kind of the best of both worlds. You get a nice angle, but it's also very micro thin. It's easy to build up pigmentation. I think it applies very evenly on the brows. How they created like cute eyebrow packaging, I do not know, but they have managed to do that. I mean, these are like some of my favorite Kosas packaging that I've seen. Yeah, I think it's really nice. And I also wanted to talk about the Airbrows. I'm wearing the clear one in my brows today, and they said that this is supposed to give you kind of like a brow lamination effect. This also does have vitamin B5 in it as well. I actually really like it. So I have more thick brow hairs and I usually like to go with a clear pomade. I really like a clear pomade because it's a little bit more matte, so it looks a little bit less noticeable in the brows. I also like them because it's easier to get more of a feathery look. I find that this still gives my brows a nice lightweight feathery look. It doesn't feel crunchy in the brows. It's actually quite lightweight and it's not too much hold either. There are some brow gels that are too crunchy and the hold is too much and it's also too shiny, and that sort of look is not my favorite. I think that this is a really nice balance. I can still like place hairs exactly where I want them to give them a more feathery look, and you definitely need some hold with your brow product in order to do that, but it's not too much hold either. So I think this one's really nice. I actually am maybe even more impressed though with the tinted. I don't know, it's a close call, but I really like this one as well. This also has castor oil and vitamin B5 in it. I really like this one, and same thing goes with the clear version as well. I think the spoolie is really nice. It doesn't look like it would be anything crazy different than your typical spoolie, but I find that it actually deposits product very evenly and smoothly. And that matters a lot if you have a tinted brow gel. This isn't very crunchy on the brows. Again, it's more lightweight, but the pigmentation is still there. But what's nice about this is that because of the spoolie and because of this formula, it doesn't go onto the brows really chunkily. It doesn't look chunky and it doesn't look messy. There are certainly some volumizing brow gels that I find just look heavy. You can kind of just see the pigment sitting on the brows. And with this one, because the spoolie really evenly disperses the product and because the formula itself isn't too wet looking, I find that it looks really natural and nice on the brows. It also lifts them and gives them that pigment. If I don't want to fuss with a brow pencil, just using this alone, I would be perfectly happy with my brows. I like that it still gives me a more lifted brow look, but it still looks clean. There are definitely some tinted brow gels that I feel like they just get everywhere. I'm just not a fan, but this one I actually really enjoy. So next up we have the Kosas 10-second eyeshadow. So I have mine in the shade Copper Halo, and it's what is on my eyes today. So this is a formula that I'm pretty familiar with, and it's one that I also think is pretty unique. So it's a very liquidy. You can hear it's an incredibly liquidy shadow, and what I think is best to do with a product like this is just to take it straight from the applicator onto the lids because it's so thin and because it's so liquidy. Also, something to absolutely do is make sure that you keep this upright. Don't mess up like I did. I actually ended up spilling a bunch of my shadow out of the top because this is so liquidy. The stopper can't stop all of the product from coming out. But this is really nice. It has a very even pigmentation. It has also a nice kind of soft sheen. This shade in particular isn't really glittery. I think some of the other shades have more glitter, but this shade in particular is like a very soft sheen. It's definitely like that watercolor effect on the eyes. Like, it's incredibly thin, but the actual look of the color and the texture on the lids isn't drying. It just kind of washes out over the eyelids really softly. I haven't really found another formula quite like it. I'm really interested in the shade Globe as well. That shade looks incredible. I've seen Jamie Page wear it, and it looks incredible on her. Copper Halo is really nice if you have green eyes though. This one isn't completely crease resistant. I do think that you get like some minor creasing in my opinion, but this I think is just nice for those of you that like to just swipe something on the lids, use a brush to kind of fluff it out into the crease and be on your way. I'd like to see them formulate some other shades. Now moving on into the Kosas The Big Clean Mascara. It's the mascara I'm wearing on my eyes as well. I mean, everything that I'm wearing is Kosas except for my blush because I didn't have the blush. But first note is that this is very hefty. I'm always surprised when I pick this up at how heavy it is. But this is Kosas's mascara that they came out with last year. It has this really nice banana shaped wand, and I'm really a big fan of more of a curved banana shaped wand. I find that it really lifts up the lashes. This is more of a dry mascara formula, so if you like something really wet, you're probably not going to like this one. But if you do like a little bit more of a dry formula, I personally do, I think that you're really gonna enjoy this one. It has really great volume, and I really enjoy the lift that it gives my lashes. It's not really clumpy. I like that it's a very fluffy and volumized look. It's just a nice, very just soft looking lash. It's really pretty. I did do a video comparing this to the Rowan Cake Mascara, and I actually prefer that formula to this one. I actually did a whole video on like my Holy Grail mascaras. I'll leave that link down below. But this one is good. I certainly like it, but it's just not something that I'm going to repurchase. I think that the Rowan lasts a little bit longer on my lashes as well. This one will crumble here and there at the end of the day. And lastly, we have what is on my lips, which is the Wet Lip Oil, and this is in the shade Dip. I love this shade. I think it's really flattering, and this was some of the first Kosas packaging that I was really impressed with. There's something really unique about their packaging. I like that they've kind of gotten a little bit more playful with it as well. But yeah, this is a really good lip oil formula if you like that traditional lip oil formula. So I typically don't like anything too thin. I actually like something that's a little bit more plush and more balmy. I like something that kind of fills in the lines of my lips. This one is certainly a little bit thinner, but the reason I still like this one is that, well, it's a few different reasons. First, I love the applicator because it's very thin, so I find that I can get right up in my Cupid's bow, and you can be more precise with this product, which is awesome because it's more thin. I actually think that that really works in its favor to be packaged this way, because if it had a really big doe foot applicator, you might get it outside of your lip lines. This isn't going to really plump the lips, but it just gives a really nice even and pretty shine. There's a very, very soft shimmer throughout this as well. It's not even really a shimmer, it's almost just like a shift, and I find that that makes this have like a very soft defining quality when it's applied to the lips. Like it just kind of shapes them in an interesting way. I actually find that this sinks down into the lips and leaves them more hydrated. My lips were actually pretty crusty earlier. My lips are just naturally pretty dry, and I found that as I've continued to reapply this, that it just kind of sinks down into the lips very comfortably, and it just kind of hydrates them and nourishes them. So though I am typically more of a fan of a balmier formula, I do think that this formula is really pretty, and I think that's everything. So I will leave everything linked down below for you guys, and let me know down below as well, what are some of your favorite products? Have you tried Kosas before? I would love to hear your thoughts. So thank you guys again so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up before you go, and I will see you in my next one.